Hello, everybody, and welcome, as Cabana Crypto would say, welcome to another episode of the weekly SKTLs volunteer slash team member YouTube hangout video thingy, social media reach out. I have with me today Dan Geraci, chairman of the Planetary Society, president, COO of Freefall Aerospace, Bryce Smith, analyst at 10,000 Days Hedge Fund, Joe Waldman, car dealership extraordinaire, and Joe Anderson, marketing guru. I do that all right? I'm Cody Willard. I used to be almost famous. Joe, did I describe you correctly?
You can
Sure.
describe it any way you want, as long as you make money for me.
That's right. So
That's what it's all about.
That's in the end. My first boss on Wall Street was at the time a 73-year-old Hungarian Soviet war camp survivor escapee, and he got into the U.S. and he was pretty hardcore, and he would yell at me about a lot of stuff, among other things, and slap the desk, and then you'd sit up at attention real quick. But he used to say, "Cody, what business are we in?" And it's not a Hungarian accent at all, but bear with me.
It's
all
not.
I got. Yeah. And I'd say, we're in the stock market. Bullshit, Cody. Bullshit. Oh, we're in the working hard. Bullshit, Cody. We're in one business, the results business. So go get me some fucking results. So, with that introduction today, we're in the results business around here. We delivered
Yes, we
on
are.
Skytles. And speaking of which, Bryce, you need to get on the phone with Daniel, figure out why that one crew did not get their tokens yet. We
Sure.
tried to award the tokens. It's on the blockchain that we did, but they're not seeing it in their wallets. We need to figure that out, please.
Yep.
Let's see. Space news. Oh, you know what? Oh, we need Cabana. Cabana, get on here. Did you guys see that Richard Hart from Hex was sued by the SEC yesterday, Monday? We've talked about this one before for months, and Cabana, I think, actually is a believer in it, and we'll get him on here and discuss it with him if he will.
Oh yeah, he defends that guy all the time, doesn't he?
Let's let Cabana get on and say it for himself. Is this him? There he is, my man Cabana.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, and we're going through crypto news, and we need you here because you know what the crypto news of the week is, of course, right?
I'm going to cut out because I'm going from Wi-Fi to cell, and then.
Boy, my producers on Fox would fire this kind of production quality today.
No, they would
probably
cut him off
charge
saying
of
he's
this
avoiding the
operation.
question.
It's possible he's doing this on purpose so he doesn't have to.
Yeah,
answer the question.
exactly. Cabana, are you here?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but barely.
Yeah, you're muffled.
Okay. Give me 1 minute. I will be able to switch mics.
All right, we'll switch mics in 1 minute. In the meantime, we'll give some color here. SEC sued the Hex guy, Richard Hart, and documentation I saw said that he is a U.S. citizen but living in Finland. And I don't know how the extradition works with suing SEC stuff. It's not like I don't think he's been criminally charged. They did charge him with outright fraud, but is that criminal?
Last time I checked, it was, but anyway.
Last time I heard fraud is criminal.
Yes.
So can the SEC do a criminal prosecution?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that he knows what the extradition laws are in Finland. I'm sure he does.
He probably
figured that out before he went there. Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, while we're waiting for Cabana Crypto, because this really is his ball of wax to talk about. So I don't know if that's the right phrase.
There was
what's the space news in the meantime?
The big thing that I would say for this group is that and I posted it just now. I posted a link in the Slack. But the U.S. intelligence agency selected vendors for the space debris tracking project. So they awarded ATEC, Advanced Space, SRI International, and West Virginia University Research Corp. They gave them each 4-year contracts of undisclosed value for what's being called the SINTRA program, the Space Debris Identification and Tracking program. So this is now, especially for small pieces of debris, and they're trying to fill a gap in the current, debris monitoring systems, which track only objects larger than 4 inches across. So these guys are going to be going after the objects on the smaller end, which are, they say, over 100 million objects greater than a millimeter, which is, a third of an inch. And so right now we're only tracking 10 centimeters in size, which is 4 inches under the Department of Defense. So they're trying to get everything swept up in these large projects to monitor anything and everything up there. And when you start getting into a third of an inch and being able to monitor that both from space and from the ground, you can just imagine the sophistication level of the technology that's being used. And that should give you a hint about what our capabilities are. There's Tommy Bahama now. So, Cody, you are muted.
Bryce and I were in New York last week, and we talked with several people about our Skytel Space crypto and random conversations, frankly. And, everybody knows what crypto is now, certainly Wall Street guys and people we were talking to in New York, tech people and things like that did. But it was amazing how few people knew about the space debris crisis, and the discussion that we had with several of them was that space is so massive, how could it possibly be a problem that there's space debris running around? Until I explained to them that stuff is running around at 17,000 miles per hour, 3 times the speed of a bullet. And so then they start going, but it was a fascinating trip listening to people talk about their ignorance about space debris and the crisis that it is. Because at this point, after working on this for a year and a half and being a space revolution believer for the last 3 or 4 years, it's like I read and see things about it all the time, but that's probably partly because the algorithms in my life feed it to me. So, Cabana Crypto, are you back on the beach? What the hell?
Apparently.
There he is. Wait, hold on. You're there.
I said I am, but I'm trying to fix my mic, as I said in private chat. So keep talking the space. I will comment on whatever you want here once I get this fixed.
Oh, man. Why is that guy always on the beach?
On another note, one thing, Firefly, who continues to have issues, just announced yesterday an extended delay in launches again. They just it has to do with some of their positioning and downrange launch capabilities. They're not meeting the proper requirements. I got a heads up the day before because we at Freefall have a satellite demonstration sitting around waiting, and has been waiting for Firefly launch for almost 2 years now. And it keeps getting pushed out. And either it's their fault or Space Force grabs a flight or something like that. And we were due to go up in October, and now they've pushed it out. Again, their delays will probably be 6 months at a minimum. So Firefly continues to have issues. Can't be making anybody in their orbit happy. we're in the midst of looking for other rides and other solutions to get our stuff flying. So
talk a little bit more about that itself. So when you what are the other solutions? Rocket Lab and a ride sharing in 18 months?
It's
with
interesting.
Starlink? Like, what is it?
York Space Systems, which is a great company. And I had a good call with their chairman, Chuck Beams, this morning, who's a good friend. We were talking about other things, but we talked about that. And they have a program where, because there are so many people who want to be suppliers to York for their satellites, they have about 75 or 80 satellites in some stage of production right now. I mean, they're cranking them out. They offer rides during the course of the year on different missions to technologies that are looking to get their flight heritage. In other words, they reach testing readiness level 10, TRL 10, which is the highest level, which means you've flown your stuff in space. That's the ultimate level of readiness and capability demonstration. And so, for example, our satellite with this special antenna is at a TRL 8. It's been tested every way you could test it on Earth. It now just needs to fly. So I'm going to be talking to their people about, what does it take to get on a ride, get a ride, how soon? But they do this purposely because so many new companies don't have that flight heritage yet. And it's hard to get a ride for all the reasons I mentioned. And you don't want to pay the full freight for, a Phantom launch, which should be this coming year, or, obviously there's SpaceX and there's Rocket Lab, but they're busy and they're not making room for small stuff. They're just launching big ticket items. So this is a cool thing that York does. And there are some others, some smaller single payload launchers, but you're bearing all the costs. With them, it's kind of like a ride share. You're paying a fractional amount to get a ride.
Amazing.
Mike, how many companies are out there like you guys that are just hanging around waiting? At what point are they in trouble because it's 2 years out and you're expected to already be doing stuff? So it's really hard for companies.
This is our bottleneck problem, one of many that we have in this industry, which is a bottleneck of flight heritage hardware. Where companies say, I have this great thing. So example, Intuitive Machines. Okay, great company. They're going to be putting their lander on the moon here next year, and they're all set to go. They see stuff of ours that they like, and they say, geez, we got to get it to fly. And so they start talking about, can we put you on this ride or that launch or this launch? Because there is no opportunity. That being said, there are dozens of launches that go up all the time with empty slots, basically with empty seats for hardware, because someone canceled at the last minute, someone wasn't organized enough to find that position. The launcher, dropped the ball and didn't look to fill the whole thing up right away because they had made enough on that launch. So there's plenty of seats. They're just not being occupied, if you will. And it's crazy. It's like having one flight a day to go where you want to go, and you're told that you can't get on, and then you find out there's a dozen empty seats when it left. So this is the problem we have. It's disorganized. And so you work through the networks of companies, in this case, Nanoracks, where, a Voyager company that I'm very familiar with, those guys were handling the readiness of our satellite with Firefly. And so now I'm asking them to see if they can find us another ride. NASA was paying for the launch. It was part of a NASA program. So here we are now, seeing if we can get NASA to pay somebody else so that we can move and get on a flight before we all die of old age. So, but that's a good example of the frustration of what's happening in commercial space. There's a bottleneck.
Joe Waldman, did you have a question for Dan?
No, I said that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That they're going up empty. I mean,
well, not empty, but
empty,
yeah, there's a
empty
lot of empty
seat.
slots.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's insanity.
Yeah.
Who is running these companies? These are morons.
Well, it's not something they're going to readily admit. And while there might be some good reasons, here's one of the most common things. Company X says, I'm reserving a ride on a ride share for my payload to get it up there and get it tested or deployed. And the rocket company says, okay, you have to have everything here to be integrated and loaded onto the rocket by X date. And it's usually pretty far in advance. And these companies miss the deadlines.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they?
And it's like, so it's not the rocket companies, it's the companies that are paying for a ride, and they just can't get ready on time. Everybody's in a hurry to get a ride, and then they can't deliver their hardware.
Well,
you need
are they paying the fee up front before, and they lose it?
Some do, some don't. The launchers want to continue to, fill those rockets, so they're not going to try to tick anybody off by booting them out.
Well, why don't they run a business like the airlines run it? And say, you got a wait list and have your stuff here, and if you know on this one, you'll be on the next one.
It's really expensive. There's nowhere to keep your stuff. It's got to be stored properly and temperature controlled in a clean room, and it's a nightmare. I mean, what you want is a bookings.com or a last minute where you can call up and find a cheap ride. That's essentially what we really need. But the facilities and moving your hardware from point A to point B and letting it sit there waiting for a ride is not a good proposition. It's massive amounts of money. So it's an efficiency that's going to have to get worked into the system at some point.
Makes me want to go buy back some of that Rocket Lab I trimmed. Cabana Crypto.
Okay.
Please tell me before I talk. Can you hear me now? Because I think I adjusted it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now it's just the wind and the
now it's just a bad. It's a tolerable connection. If
he's
not
probably
great.
He's probably facing a parking lot, but we're seeing the beach. Thank you very much.
Cabana.
If he was creative, he'd have a rocket in the background blasting off right now.
That would be a great visual. You guys quit giving the guy a hard time. Let's find out what's going on. What Cabana, the Hex news is the news of the week. Richard
What
Hartman,
the hex, man?
by
What
the
heck?
SEC, including for fraud. What is your take, my friend?
My take is it's an SEC kind of cash grab-ish kind of thing. They're going to take their cut. It was a civil thing as far as I can read. Looks like they're going after 12 million or so misappropriated or misused funds or something like that. So one, as I've said, and Cody knows this, this is when I first introduced him to this crypto years ago. I said, hey, the guy is already wealthy, at least I believe so. And he was mining Bitcoin, like 50 BTC back, I don't know, over a decade ago, for nothing, or 50 cents a pool, something like that. Just blocks. Click, 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 click. I think he's okay. He's done well. He's spoken out against, he was a Bitcoin maxi. When that didn't develop, he pivoted to Ethereum because he just changed his worldview. Thought that was, better in line for what crypto should be going forward. And then he decided to create Hex. Anyway, so he's done, he's obviously created Hex Crypto. They've launched Pulse Chain, Pulse X in the past 2.5 months now, I want to say. So what they're saying is, say, the sacrifice funds and all this stuff to the chase, that he used that to buy himself stuff. If there's evidence to, prove that, then that's pretty bad. I don't think there is. Prove it on chain. Pretty much every fund that was ever sacrificed is still there in those wallets. Anything that I can see. So, and it's available. Like I said, it's on the blockchain. That's why it's actually more transparent than dirty fiat USD. If you search the PDF and you look for accusations like scam or Ponzi or pyramid and what the SEC calls out. None of that is in there. And those have been all keywords that all the influencers and bashers have said nonstop. None of that is in there. But if you go to the SEC's website and you search on scam, there's plenty of suits that they have going on for scams. So this seems
So are
mostly...
you still a believer? Are you going to buy more? You selling your stake? I still think the biggest problem with Hex, besides the fact that he told, like with Pulse X, he called it a sacrifice, and it still is illegal because
and same thing with Pulse Chain too. Yeah,
right. But it's still illegal because he is doing he's doing a public financing. Doesn't matter what you call it, and that's what the SEC said in the suit. And then the problem with all of it is with Hex, there's no commercial use case of it. It is not a product that you can use to trade value. It's supposed to be a store of value, but there is no use case for it. So are you worried at all about any of that?
I can't say that I am, because really this is a battle. Everybody wants to look at it as, oh, let's go out and get Richard Hart, but really this is kind of DeFi, right? It's DeFi versus the SEC. This is what it's going to be. So if they come for something that's fully decentralized, I mean, there's 30-some thousand validators out there for Pulse Chain right now. He doesn't have any of them, as far as I know. I mean, he probably spun up thousands of them in the beginning, but he has no control over that anymore. It's out there, just like Ethereum and other, in quotes, decentralized, blockchains. So no, I'm not worried about that. It's mainly, like I said, it's SEC versus DeFi. So if they come for this and they win, then they're going to come after Ethereum and everything else. I mean, SKTLs is built on BSC. They're going to come for all that. They're
not coming for SKTLs because we don't have any.
No, I didn't say that.
But I'm just clarifying. Yeah. But Ethereum has founder tokens. They're coming for it. The basically all of it. They're coming for it because it's all securities.
And that's what has yet to be proved. That's your opinion. Like the Ripple case, I think, was a huge win in terms of, I guess, the retail side. Obviously, there's some discrepancies in there with, corporate entities, or I forget the verbiage, but investors who have larger accounts and information. So there were two separate kind of rulings in there. But for overall crypto, I view that as a huge win.
Did you see that? Actually is a good segue. Did you see yesterday, or maybe it was Monday, another court invalidated a bunch of that Ripple ruling, and that's why Coinbase was crushed yesterday, right, or whenever it was.
And we've been talking about this for years, and it's going to go back and forth. So like I said, there wasn't really a definitive answer. People picked and chose what they wanted to hear about that, and I think by and large, it was positive for crypto. There are some things that, the SEC can, very few, in my opinion, that they can hang their hat on there. But if they, get that with that, so what? I'm saying this is true DeFi. You have more centralization in Ripple than you do in Ethereum or a Pulse chain. Ripple had an office that they're paying millions of dollars on. You can could go to a Ripple headquarters. You can't go really to an Ethereum headquarters. You can't go to the Pulse chain headquarters. That's true decentralization, true crypto. And if you're not a believer in that ideology, then what are we doing here? You want control of your money, your ideas, your funds, and yeah, that's my point of view.
Cabana, you've spent 3 or 4 or 5 years really studying crypto at this point. Would you say that's true?
Yes, sir. And I've said this before, you were kind of one of my big entry knowledge points into that, because you had a book, forgive me if I don't remember the title, but you wrote about Ethereum, Litecoin, all the...
Here comes a pitch.
all the coins, in 2018, maybe I got the year right there. But yeah, I've studied it. I've studied hex, and it's interesting. And if I may shill just one thing, the highest of stakes documentary, if what we're talking about with Cody, it is a documentary from a 5-time Emmy Award-winning crew. I've actually met the guys. Cody may or may not have met them. I'm not gonna speak up for him, but that does debut in select major cities this weekend. So people are free to go to that and make their decision because they cover it from all sides. It is not a puff piece. I haven't even seen it yet, but I've heard both sides of it, and I just think it's going to be very controversial and entertaining. And it's all about the Hex founder Richard Hart. So if you can get a ticket, go for it. But lots of cities are sold out. So.
The producers, directors of that reached out to me about a year or so ago and asked me if I would be involved in it. Basically, they needed someone to be, a hex bear, a hex skeptic for the show, and if I would play that role, and clearly I am a hex skeptic, and so it wasn't like I was going to be faking anything. But after I went and they flew down to Albuquerque, and I went up and had lunch. My wife and I went up and had lunch, and maybe it was a dinner with them. I liked them just fine. I just I didn't want to do any more production stuff, and I decided I just chose not to. I don't even remember. Like, I'd have to go find the email, and on top of that, I don't want to be like the argumentative guy. I'm the revolution guy. I'm the guy that believes in the world getting to be better, and I want to be like that. I don't want to be the guy who's like.
Believe me, they found plenty of people to argue against it. So there was no shortage. But
Kumbaya, Cody.
Yeah, but I mean, what better credentials as an investment manager for your track record? That's why you were asked, I guess, one of the first ones. So kudos to you.
Bryce, can you start calling me Kumbaya Cody around the office? I think that'd be fantastic. You're muted, Bryce. Oh, I wonder if I could start muting you around the office. That would be awesome.
I'm not doing that.
All right. Questions or comments? Cabana, thank you for talking about it. I didn't know if you would even want to talk about it. We just come on the thing and threw it on you, and you're a mensch for standing up and talking about it in such a
I've done my work on it, and that's why my confidence level. I've actually read the 27 pages. A lot of people haven't. So if you go through it, there are many points in there. I mean, it almost seems like they wrote it in crayon before they sent it to publishing. They talk about pulse chain validators needing like 5 million pulse. It's actually 32. They talk about Pulse X running on Ethereum. It doesn't. There's so many inaccuracies that it's kind of laughable on many points. So.
All right. Well,
yes.
Thank you for discussing it.
They are a proxy for the uninformed, unfortunately, for everybody.
Yeah, and our tax dollars are going towards this, and I'm just reading this, who researched this? I could have written it better if I wanted to try to poke holes in it. And it's just
it's the SEC.
Yeah.
The same people that were, thought Bernie Madoff wasn't doing anything wrong. So.
Yeah, he was literally on their board.
Yep.
I mean, which continues a fine tradition of criminals running the SEC. And by that, I meant Joe Kennedy. I didn't.
Yes, I was going to say thank you, Joe Kennedy. The original. Well, a lot of people may not know. Maybe I said this once before. If I did, stop me on here. But the anti-manipulative acts of the SEC back in the early 30s, before it was formed, were written by a group of guys who knew exactly what those should be. And that was Joe Kennedy, Edward Hutton, Charlie Merrill, and J.P. Morgan. Or one of the Morgans. They sat at a bar in Lower Manhattan on a legal pad and wrote out the anti-manipulative acts because they were the ones who knew best how to manipulate the markets. And then Joe Kennedy became the first head of the SEC.
Bryce and I might have been in that same bar last week.
I think you probably. It wasn't Harry's. It wasn't Harry's. So.
All right. Peace and love. We're gonna go look at earnings of everybody that just reported this afternoon. DoorDash, Hood,
there's a lot of them.
Qualcomm. Thanks for moving. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you on the flip next Wednesday, 4 p.m.
I will not be here next Wednesday. I may try. I am at the Small Sat conference in beautiful Logan, Utah, in the middle of no place. It's a Saturday through Thursday conference. How bad is that to do a Saturday, Sunday at a conference?
Wow.
Yeah, it's really bad. But it's at Utah State. It's extremely well attended by the commercial space industry. And so I will be, shaking hands and kissing babies. So.
Hey, God bless. Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you then.
See ya.
See ya.